Tom Mealy. Welcome to another edition of the Long Island
View. Don't make it too hard, but ask me.
I am Tom Mealy from the Long Island View, and I'm here with my partner,
Tommy Moore.
And I got to tell you, today we have a special guest. But before we get into that, I want to talk about what we have coming up.
There's so much.
I mean, I don't know where to begin half the time. As you know, Madhouse Studios, we film out of the studios here in Deer Park. But we have something new coming up, and you want to talk about it?
I would like to talk about it because it's a kind of a passion that I've had for a long time. Because years ago, in the 70s, late 70s, there used to be a lot of wine and cheese clubs around, and it was nice. Like to me, it was always like a first date thing, or if you were married, or you could go into a place, and it was quiet, and you felt very at ease, nice atmosphere. You could sit, you could chat. And now what we're going to do is not only have that atmosphere, but we're going to bring in some of the greatest entertainment around. And it's going to be absolutely a blessing for people to come to this place. It's going to be the place to be.
What I find very unique, Tommy, about what we're doing is the atmosphere and the ambiance that's going on there is very important. There'll be couches. You'll be able to sit. If you remember the old TV show, what was that? Oh, my God. Friends. Mm-hmm. That was a small cafe.
Everybody knows your name.
But, you come in and you've got that couch, that chair, that coffee table kind of feeling. You got a fireplace out there in the corner and a nice stage with some soft bluesy kind of acoustical music playing in the background. And you just want to chill out under some really great lights, this is the place to go.
And you know what's great about it, too? Where you have groups of friends, like your old neighbors or something.
Right.
It's the perfect place.
The place
the perfect
to hang out.
Place.
It's almost living in an associated neighborhood, and everybody's coming down and they're meeting for the first time. And we'll be there, so that's another very big point.
And the town is beautiful. You couldn't pick a better place, right? With the gazebo right in front of it. It's beautiful. It's just
I want to say a special thanks to the people that have made this possible. Building any kind of an establishment on Long Island, you're always running into a little controversy. So, we've looked all over Long Island, and I want to give a special thanks to the mayor.
Yeah.
He's been a tremendous help, and also the board on the village, of being there and working with us through this whole process, and also Pete Ferrantino. For making it possible with an incredible space and allowing us to put this dream of a cafe that I think is very much needed here in Long Island.
A lot of excitement about it. We haven't even told anybody, and it's already all over Facebook. It's all over all the amiable sites.
Geez, I hope you sign the lease tomorrow. Nothing's going to happen between here
Larry?
and there. Larry. But anyway, listen. We have a great guest here tonight. We're going to be talking about children.
Super.
This way of life is so different from when you and I were children.
Sadly
so. I don't know necessarily if I agree with it or I disagree, and I hope I get educated.
I disagree.
You disagree with the way it is now?
Oh, majorly.
Okay.
Majorly.
All right. You want to introduce our guest?
Yes, I would. This is Ms. Dawn Kronberger.
Did we get that right?
Kroberger.
Kroberger.
Yes.
I see this incredible picture here in orange. Jack out of the box. Jack's no longer in the box.
I took him out.
Why?
Well, he's been in there for a lot of centuries. And, we all kind of get stuffed in the box from time to time. And I wanted to find a way to show people that it was okay to be different. It was okay to be outside of your comfort zone, and we'll survive through it.
Well, you took a course. Is this how it jump-started this, right? You took a coaching course.
Yes.
On
life coaching.
Life coaching, as far as making yourself feel good about yourself and
Yes.
everything. And when did it? I'm assuming that it transferred from you to your children, and then you saw the bigger picture. Is that kind of what happened?
Well, it's kind of what happened, but before I actually felt good about myself, I felt terrible about myself.
Well, I'm saying after you got
so
past.
looking at yourself, in the mirror without those blinders, it's scary, it's hard. And, when we can really go inside and have to accept ourselves for everything that we are and everything that we are not, that's the only way to move forward. And
When
we
you
don't do that on an everyday basis unless we're doing something to do something.
Yeah.
Jack, out of the box, is it almost like children are to be seen but not heard?
I wouldn't
Now you're wanting to be heard and seen, where years ago, I remember growing up in a very tough Italian environment, and it was always children were to be seen and not heard. And this is telling me that, kids are important and children should be seen and heard because people need to be heard and they need to be able to express themselves. Do you see it that way?
Absolutely. The expression "children should be seen and not heard" was more of a not so much what I had in mind, but it absolutely is perfectly said for this book because we have so many misconceptions of who we are, and a lot of them are because we have been stifled, we've been called stupid, we've been said we wouldn't be able to amount to anything. And these are the things that, whether it's a teacher, a parent, a brother, a sister, a neighbor, the kid down the block, we're cruel. We come out with things.
They said that years ago. I mean, I know that, and Tommy knows this story, and my wife knows this story. I had an uncle one time, I overheard him in the backyard when I was 12 years old. He says, "Those Mealy boys will never amount to anything." And, today, I mean, I don't want to boast about what I've done, but that really aggravated me for so long, for many, many, many years, and I never forgot what he said. But, children to be seen, children to be heard, children to express their feelings. I want to ask you a question. I see baseball teams and Little League teams. Everybody's a winner. Do you agree with that?
It's a lot of controversy around that question.
I can.
I
definitely.
don't necessarily agree with it. No.
No, there's no incentive.
There is no incentive. There is no reward, really. If I don't extend myself if I know that I'm not winning and you hand me a trophy, there's nothing
Right.
to feel good about.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. My grandson, right? I have 6 grandsons.
Mm-hmm.
Before I got into the studio, I retired and I was taking them down to the beach where I took my swimming lessons when I was a kid, and it was a big deal. You went by the charts and everybody looked every week, and like my grandson, he just like blew everybody away. And at the end of the year when they had the trophy thing, they gave everybody the same thing, and they didn't even mention that this kid won.
Right.
So I mean, I said to him, are you going to do it? He goes, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. Why? He said, the kid that came and swim got the same medal as I got. Why? And he's exactly right.
We focus so much on hurting people or
Bullying.
Yes, that we're afraid to do something that is actually truly rewarding. Each and every one of those children are taking something different away from that. Whether it's they feel like your grandson, it's not worth it because I'm not going to be rewarded anyway.
Why put the work in?
Or they feel like I don't have to do so much and I'll still get rewarded and I'll still move ahead. So it really is just, it's not a really good way of doing anything, really.
Well, what intrigues me about what you've done here is that you are teaching them self-esteem.
Yes.
And with self-esteem, you can overcome all of that. Bullying, ridicule, everything. I mean, as long as you have self-esteem and you know inside yourself that you're a good person, it doesn't it used to bother me people say stuff. I couldn't care less, I just couldn't care less. I couldn't because I know I'm a good person and that's all, as long as I know
How
it.
does social media play into this?
Ooh. Oof.
Well, as far as the book or as far as the children and what they're taking away
The
from
lifestyle of our
social
children
media.
nowadays.
Well, it says, and again, I'm going to revert back to this because this is a powerful, Jack out of the box is a very powerful saying. It's got a lot of energy behind it, and it can be interpreted a million different ways, and as a positive. Right, Jack needs to get out of the box. Jack's been stuffed in the box way too long. And, even thinking out of the box, I mean, think people doing something that is outside of the normal. Social media has a habit of ridiculing, and it's a terrible, terrible tool, especially today. I mean, I don't know if I would want to be 12 years old, 13 years old today, and having the social media the way it is, because if I choose to do something that's out of the box, or something that's different, am I going to be ridiculed by the other individuals that are either jealous of what I'm doing or envious of what I'm doing?
And it's not even a matter of whether they are or they're not. It's if the child is not feeling good about themselves, regardless, it's going to be that type of a feeling.
So the
And there's
important
a
part
lot
is to
of
feel
people-
good about yourself.
Yes.
And not let anybody get you down or tell
Yes.
you what you're doing is incorrect.
Yes.
If you feel that it's positive and it's the right thing for you, then absolutely do it and don't
Self-esteem.
look back.
But how do we do that as a child? We need a lot of
It's hard
help.
because we grow up as I think back of when I was a kid, and you look at what our capabilities are. I mean, we come up with these ideas as adults because our brain has had so many years to grow and to absorb what the world is throwing at us. Children that are 12 or 13 years old, they only have really technically 5 years worth of established understanding of what the world really is.
But those are the most crucial 5 years.
The 5 years, right?
First
So
5
how do
years.
you take somebody? Let's break it down into geographical areas. A 13-year-old growing up in the projects is different than a 13-year-old growing up in Lloyd Harbor.
It can be.
Okay, so
Yes.
having them. I'm losing my train of thought a little bit here because I was getting to a point and I almost forgot what I'm saying here. But
The comparisons of how much
yeah,
harder it is.
It's very difficult. How do we teach that child to have that self-esteem, and in both geographical areas? I mean, their self-esteem comes from. There's an old expression: you learn what you live.
Yes.
And that's very powerful, because if you're living in a project and daddy's not there and mommy's the one who's raising you, versus living in a place like Lloyd's Neck or Huntington Harbor or a place like that where mommy and daddy are there and they're very well off, you're learning what you live. How does the self-esteem balance itself?
When you're saying the Lloyd Harbor and the projects.
What I'm trying to say is a very
I get what
high
you're
end
saying.
versus
Yes, absolutely. And what I'm feeling into that when you're asking me this question is that you can have the most loving household, whether it's just mommy or mommy and daddy in the projects, and then you can have a really not so loving family in Lloyd Harbor. I mean, if you think about the lifestyles, yeah, they may have a lot of things, but how did they get them? They may not have time to be with their children. They may not, and I'm not saying either way is wrong, but
I'm with you.
when you're looking at that opposite there, it doesn't necessarily mean that just because we live in a project that we can't love our children and teach them to have self-esteem or to have strength to maybe move forward. We don't know that. And when we're working so hard and we're leaving our children home in front of the TV with a nanny, what is the child getting out of that too? So in both cases, you can either have the most functional child or you can have, the dysfunctional side as well. But the bottom line is when we look at it as functional or dysfunctional and then we feel into that, that's where it really counts. So if Johnny is living in the projects and he's comparing himself to the household in Lloyd Harbor, that's where the effect is. Not that his
So a
family.
lot of talented people come out of the projects.
Exactly.
No, listen, and I'm
That's-
not saying that they don't have the self-esteem. I just, and actually, I think that, there is a lot of talented people that come out of the projects, and there's a lot of spoiled brats that come out of the.
And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of drug addicts. A lot of drug addicts in the richest areas.
No, without a doubt.
So
Very interesting.
even with the drug addicts and even with the attitude or whatever it is, kids are kids. Doesn't matter where they come from.
It's how they're brought up.
They're going to interpret things. They're going to feel better or worse than somebody else, and that's where the balance it needs to be found, and it has to start in the household. So
Right. Absolutely.
it really has to start with
Morals.
questioning our children, asking them how something made them feel. You know, when a child in the project or Lloyd Harbor comes home and says that they were bullied today or somebody stole their lunch money, you know, what is your response as a parent? Do you tell them to go kick butt the next day?
Well,
or
let me ask you something. I mean, when I grew up in, you know, the 50s and 60s, and you know, like people hear about, when I tell them stories about, you know, how we all got paddled and everything, like oh my, like they did that barbaric act. But I got to tell you something. There was a consequence in those days. You know, you took your swat on the butt, and you
Well,
went
see, no,
about
I
your
don't
day.
agree with that.
Yeah, but these kids now are beating up teachers, throwing them downstairs. The teachers are afraid to do anything because they're going to get sued or they're going to get fired. You know what I mean? There's no like balance of consequence.
you know, it's interesting because there should be consequence. You know, when you talk about an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, like what do you do? But there should be some sort of system set up in the schools where these children are receiving some kind of
Absolutely.
therapy or coaching
Absolutely.
or something to this effect. If we know that these children, detention does nothing. You know, when you're in detention or you get suspended,
Well,
from
suspended
school,
is even better.
you know, you're having fights. You know, you're making airplanes and you're throwing them around the room. Nothing's happening. It's the same thing with our jail system. You know, when
Well,
you look at our discipline system, even as adults, nothing's happening. There's
Yeah.
no rehabilitation for these people, no incentive for them to better themselves because they don't know if they can be better.
Right.
They don't know
Well,
that.
you brought up a good point there, and I said that, and only because like I'm a big news watcher, and every time that something does go down in school where a kid got bullied or killed or whatever, well, the parents went to the guidance counselor, but they didn't do anything.
Nothing.
That's the problem, and you know, that's who should be held accountable, and definitely the parents should be backing up the school too. Don't go down there, not my kid, and you know,
absolutely.
because that's a big problem
Well,
too.
a lot of
Absolutely.
people, you got to also remember, Tommy, a lot of people in society today, and I see it, you know, in what I do during the day, there are too many people that think that if their child is they're so-called abused in school, or the teacher ridicules it, or the teacher touches, everybody's too crazy. So so what happens is the municipalities that own the school districts have to back down because
That's
they're
what
afraid of being
I'm
sued.
saying. They're afraid of
You
being
know, there's got to be a happy balance somewhere. I never hit my kids growing up. I think I only paddled my son once in the 35 years or 33 years he's been on this earth. And I don't believe in that.
I raised my kids
believe
by myself since they're
that
2
if
and
they
4.
do something wrong, that what I did was I took something from them. I took something away from them. I think that meant
That's
more
a consequence.
yeah,
Right.
that's a consequence. Let's talk about your book for a minute because that looks
Sure.
pretty great. What was your, now this came out how long ago?
2013, it was actually published.
And what inspired you?
Well, as we mentioned before, I was going through this coaching program, and I realized that, you know, just when you thought you were okay, you're not, you know? And there's a lot, there were a lot of gaps in why I did what I did, just in general, just why I did the things that I did. There were a lot of gaps in, you know, who I really was and who I was pretending to be or who I thought I was. You know, it's just, we just don't know. So when I really got that part of my life was made up, you know, we don't really know. We don't know where the disconnect is. We just have it's almost like it's not real, you know? And when I got into my true self and I felt good for the first time, like really good for the first time, I want everybody to have that.
And that's
And I
also a
said-
reflection on your kids too.
And I said, if we can just reach our children first, because we are, like we were saying before, we're in victim status. Victim status. So everything that's going on in the media puts us in victim status. And what do they put on the media? Everything that creates us to be a victim. So we get into this mindset and we just sort of say, okay, so I'm a victim and somebody's responsible and somebody's to blame and we don't take responsibility for our own lives. When we lose that, taking responsibility for ourselves, it's over.
It's gone.
we need to stop blaming others. We need to stop, okay, you had a horrible childhood. You were paddled. I know,
I'm not
I'm not
complaining.
using you, I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like, but this is the whole thing. So I'm just using you as an
think
example.
it was good.
So we could take it away two different ways. You could say it made you a better man, or you could say that it made you a weaker person. So, and you can then take that and start beating up other people and take it into your lives, and then it just becomes a pattern. And we don't even know that these patterns are happening. We can be going through the worst thing in our life and be angry about it and get stuck in that entire, everything's going to pass. It's all going to move. But we can't get stuck if we want it to be,
Well,
if we want
like
it to
when I
be.
was talking about the paddling, I never, not at home, never at home. It was in school. And
Oh,
I
at
mean, it was
school,
a
okay, yeah.
common, it was common
Yeah.
practice. But you know what? You did something wrong. You knew there was a consequence.
Mm-hmm.
You went in, you bent over, the principal hit you with the paddle or whoever, and you went up, and you didn't do it again.
But you could have still walked away angry and bitter.
I
And like a
I got to
victim.
tell you, I knew I was wrong.
Yeah.
I knew I was wrong.
Well, you're like the model
You're-
child
you're,
then.
yeah,
Because
you're
like,
one in a million here. Because most
Come on,
people
you know
wouldn't do that.
you know you did something wrong.
Well, yeah.
If I got paddled and
Granted,
didn't do
but
it,
did you know
I
you
would be
did
pissed
something
off.
wrong when you walked in before you got paddled?
Yeah.
So then why hit you?
I knew when I was walking when they called, send Tommy Moore down there. I knew then my ass was going to be burning. I knew it. I got paddled. I can't even tell you how
I
many
like
times.
the part
There's a whole other
where
story
you
for that.
talk about people taking responsibility for themselves and stop blaming
Yes,
others
yes.
for their downfall.
That's right.
I like that, and I model a lot of the things that I do around that same premise. That the world doesn't meet you halfway. If you want it, you go get it.
Go get it.
And if you don't go get it, you're not going to get it, and somebody else will. So I push hard on that.
I would like to hear some stories about how this has changed children and how you've seen things happen from this book, because I'm sure you've seen it right before your eyes.
Yeah, I've seen.
I see the smile
It's
on your
like-
face.
Well, because every time somebody asks me about a little story about the book, I think of this one child, Christopher, and I was in a school reading, and talking about the book to the children, and he just lit up. You could tell the ones who are really listening and the ones who it really shifted something inside of them, and he was excited about it, and afterwards. We were in the hallway at the school when everything was over. He offered me a cookie. And my initial reaction was, don't take the cookie from the kid. He has one cookie left. And I was like, no, it's okay. Have your cookie. And he's like, I really want you to have it.
But he was
So I
stepping
took
out of the
cookie.
box.
I took the
He
cookie.
was
got to.
giving you the
Exactly.
cookie, so he listened to you.
Exactly. And
You had to
The
take
and
the
for
doorbell
cookie.
him
went
to
off.
offer me the cookie was him giving back to me.
That's right.
Right.
Because he got something.
And that's all he had
out of
to
that.
offer you.
Exactly. And so, yeah.
Very
that's-
But your
cool.
first
that's-
reaction was not to take it.
Because it was one cookie left, and that's what I'm saying. We just feel like we shouldn't take
Right.
from children,
Right.
but we
That's
should when they
understandable.
offer us something.
Yeah.
That
But that's
was huge
what
for
makes-
me
So
to
meaningful.
even get. Yes.
That
So
meant so
meaningful.
much to him
Yes.
that you accepted that.
And you ate the cookie.
I ate the cookie.
There you go.
I think that's unique.
The cookie.
That's great.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it
So
must make you feel like $1 million, even just that one kid.
That
right?
was
You know, they
just
say that
stuck
one
with me
thing-
because I got something from that.
That's what I
because
mean.
I learned. I learned that. It's okay. That's what they need. They
But
need
it
to
had
give
make
you
your
that.
soul feel so good that
Oh, it
you
was
got
perfect.
inside him.
They say
Beautiful.
that there's one thing that happens in your life that actually changes the dial in the direction that you go. I mean, I know for me, one thing that happened, and it changed my dial. That cookie may have changed his dial. He could have went this way,
Yep.
but now he's going this way. And I think that something like that one person that you touched with this book, who knows where that dial's going to go to. And where he's going to wind up is a result of you.
That's beautiful. Thank
And
you.
that's an
It's like that
incredible,
one-
incredible thing.
Yeah.
That one teacher that cared,
Yep.
that really took you on the side and cared. You never forget that person.
My uncle said to me, those Mealy boys will never amount to anything. I can see him and hear him, and that was really years ago. So it was many, many years ago. All right, but I can see him and I can hear him, and that was my dial.
A
That was
perfect
that's what
example of
changed.
the scarring.
And you did the same thing to that kid. So that Christopher you'll forever remember him, and he'll forever remember you. And you never know. I would be interested to see where he is in 25 years from now.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it?
You'll see him on Oprah, and he'll
find
go, I
him.
want to thank
We'll
Dawn.
come back to this show in 25 years. We'll bring Christopher on.
Let's
Why
hope
not,
they're
right?
still here.
I see with my
25
Little
years
League
ago.
kids. I see with Little League kids that still come up to you. Now they're in their 40s.
We have a couple of minutes left
It's
here. In fact,
amazing.
they're looking at me now. I got less than 60 seconds. Where can they find this book?
We could find the book on balboapress.com, barnesandnoble.com. It's also on amazon.com. And my website is not on there anymore. Never mind.
Amazon.com. So when they go to Amazon.com and the little thing at the top, they put Jack out of the box,
Jack out of the box.
And Barnes
and,
and
the,
Noble.
and the book will
Barnes
show
and
up
Noble.
right then and there.
Yes.
How's it
Amazon's an
doing?
amazing tool.
It's. I looked today actually because I was sending you the links, and there's a lot of reviews that are blows me
See,
away.
now I think this
So
is a perfect thing to have in a guidance counselor's office.
sure.
Perfect.
Sure.
It's geared towards what age group?
4 to 8. My father said every adult needs one.
Are you planning to do
I agree
another
with him.
book?
I am. It's already written. And so my illustrator is my cousin. He has a copy of it, and we're just kind of waiting to sit down together and get a game plan. So, but
Well, I got to tell you, it's really exciting having people like you here.
It's a
you.
delight.
You know, I like when people come in and actually make a difference in somebody's life, because you never know where that road can lead. And that's important. So thank you
beautiful.
so much for showing up. coming
thank
down.
you. Thank you for having me.
You've been watching another edition of the Long Island View. We will see you next week. You're probably seeing this in 2016, so please be careful out there. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. There's a lot of stuff happening. Watch it. Keep your eyes open. See something, say something, and we'll see you next week on The View.
Have a blessed one.